Hey, Dave, looks like you got some mail.
Oh, sweet. I curse you. Love the BBEG. What do you think that means?
Well, that was kind of evil. Wonder if the viewers will consider this an improvement.
Hey folks, Nerdarchist Dave here from Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds, and today I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
Nerdarchy is a place for news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons and other role-playing games.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to tune to that notification bell.
Alright, so we were going to list the 5 top most evil D&D spells in the game. So first we should probably just kind of define what makes a spell evil.
Well, first I gotta say that I'm glad that you're not a frog anymore.
Well, yeah, thank God. There was that greater restoration spell that I think we had a potion or a scroll lying around. I don't know, I was a frog at the time.
All right, so you talked about wanting to figure out what is the most evil spell, but I mean, from what category are we looking at this? What angle? What perspective?
Right, exactly. So let's talk about that. What makes a spell evil? Like, so I've seen others make the argument, necromancy is no more evil than any other spell. Why is it wrong to, raise someone's corpse as a slave, but it's okay to set them on fire and immolate them?
We have to look at, are we talking about from the character's perspective who is, the effect is going against? Are we looking at it from an outside viewer? Are we, removing the veil and looking at it from the effect on the tabletop, on the experience of the game itself? Like, these are all things that, you have to look at when it comes to, putting on labels.
Let's start breaking it down. Like with some of the things that we consider like the most evil thing that can happen in the game, from a combination of mechanics as well as immersion and story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that entraps or enslaves someone is pretty darn evil.
I would absolutely, agree. There are spells that literally remove the soul from the body, put it in something else, and that's it. Sorry, don't pass go, don't collect $200.
Or there's spells that enthrall, dominate you, take away your free will. Again, these things would be considered quite evil. Sure, maybe we imprison people as a society because they've done something wrong, either because we're trying to rehabilitate them or just move them from society. But, slavery is frowned upon, and there is no greater form of slavery than when you mentally dominate someone. It feels so intrusive, so personal, and it's such a deep violation.
And when you go in those kind of those dominate spells, those enthrall spells, it's literally the caster, they are forcing their will upon whoever the target is, and if you failed that saving throw, if you get one, that's it. You're going to do exactly what they say. So from a character's perspective, are they sitting there trapped in their own mind, being forced to do these acts? Are they blacked out, not being able to know what's going on until the veil is lifted? And then from the character's perspective, or the player's perspective, they're sitting there having to do possibly something that the character would never do, but because they're under the effect of the spell, they might be breaking their clerical oath or paladin oath. It's crazy.
And from the player standpoint, they've completely lost agency in the game with their character.
Absolutely.
The only way to regain agency in this instance is to lean into it and just be an evil son of a bitch, and just try and do the things that your evil captor wants you to do, especially if it's like take out the party. Like, I know, we've personally, and we've witnessed people at the table that try to do the thing that is the least destructive to the party, like in their way of resisting.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, as we've become better role players and gotten more immersed in the game, I feel like we've really leaned into it. And it's like, when that happens, it's like, oh, it's on. I am going to do my utmost to annihilate and destroy the party. If I die in the instance, or as they die, so be it.
It's part of the story. I mean, when we, as players, as veterans, with 20, 30 years experience at RPGs, there's times that you just have to give in and do what you have to do what's there. consequences can be dire, but you know what? Those stories are going to be awesome.
Right, and just try and have fun with it. So one of the other things is spells that just totally obliterate you. There's no coming back from, or it's very difficult to come back from, such as you need a wish or ninth level spell magic in order to.
Things like disintegrate are just utterly destructive, and chances are like it's not going to bring them down. But Lord knows if it does.
Yeah,
That's it.
there's things like disintegrate, power word, kill. Even though it doesn't actually kill you, the imprisonment spells are very difficult to break as well, requiring extremely high level magic. So it might as well have obliterated you. And in some ways, it might be worse because you're like trapped in that state where you're not dead or alive. You just kind of are.
And then you also have to look at it as I mentioned earlier. From being in that scene, whether you're the character that's under the effect or an onlooker, sometimes the actual visualization of these things is like, oh my God, what did you just do? You mentioned raising the dead. If I kill you and bring you back as an undead, you were just alive a short moment ago, and now all of a sudden you are a shambling corpse. Or, what if hard wilting, where like the moisture is just sucked out of your body? What does that look like as the flesh just kind of shrivels and pulls in, and you've got this gaunt expression or look upon your face?
Blight kind of does a similar thing. Also, you mentioned the fact that you're being raised as a zombie or even as a skeleton. These are horrific things, and you're also kind of, in my mind, you're kind of talking about enslaving them beyond death. Like it's like, no, death is not final for you. I'm going to pull back a piece of your soul and keep you here. And then there's spells that are like combine the two. They're even worse. It's like, oh, you're dead and you're a zombie.
Absolutely. And I guess, like the last thing that we can kind of, talk about is like the effect on the world. You've got the ability to, with some powerful spells cause earthquakes and cause these chasms. You can control weather and, just destroy, areas just as equally with these powerful magics.
Also, too, like effect on the world, I would also kind of like take that as effect on society. So when you look at spells that are like enslaving the mind and body or bringing you back as undead, like a lot of these things also go against social taboos in addition to like the actual physical effect they have. So it creates this like greater, almost like society psychological effect that kind of ripples outwards and adds an extra layer of horror and revulsion to it.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at this. I mean, in today's society, what would happen if magic became a thing, and the world of D&D, all these spells, became possible. But we're playing in basically medieval times, so there's no laws, in most of the worlds against these kind of things. But imagine like what would happen if you were to add lawyers and briefcases into D&D. Like, oh, you dominated this person and made them do X, suffer the consequences.
Then you just dominate the lawyer so they dismiss the case, or the judge so they dismiss the case. So before we get into our list of the top spells that we find to be the most evil, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, D&D Beyond. They make these videos possible. Ted, what are some of the features and things that you like about D&D Beyond?
Well, I mean, we're talking spells, and when we're doing the research on this, it was so easy to go in and look at the different, spell selections that are there. I mean, obviously, if we're talking about evil spells, you can just dismiss all the low-level stuff, and you got to concentrate on those, 5th through 9th level spells. And I can go in and just, make my selections and just pull up the different stuff. Obviously, I can be like, oh, well, let's look at the necromancy. Let's look at the evocation. And I can just go right to those.
What I think Ted is trying to say, folks, is the filters on D&D Beyond are awesome. They make it so much easier to find things, build things, whether you're building your campaign, whether you're building your character, or you want to use it as a database to quickly search and find things. The tooltips are amazing. The hover cards, I love those. You're looking at a monster, you're using it in your game, but it's got a spell or several spells. And normally that means running to another book. But now with D&D Beyond, I just mouse over that highlighted area and it just gives me the information I need. I don't even have to click or do anything. It's right there. It makes playing D&D so much easier and more efficient. it adds to your game and will level it up.
D&D Beyond allows for, awesome and quick character creation. You can limit what books you're going to use, what sources that you want to be able to draw from, and while you're doing it, it just takes you through that step-by-step process, making the character creation process that much easier and more fun.
So you can help support the channel by helping to support our sponsors and go check out D&D Beyond today.
All right, so you mentioned that we have a list of, prepared spells that are the most evil.
Well, unless we're a sorcerer, then we might just know them. Yeah, so absolutely. Like, this is our top 5. We'd love for you to go down to the comments and list your top 5 spells that you think are the most evil in the game. Heck, or you would give to your villain. Heck, pause the video right now and go make your list and see if it matches up to ours. So, Ted, what's the number 1 on the list?
All right, so in some of these categories, we're kind of lumping effects, and therefore there's a couple times spells might be linked together. So Finger of Death and Disintegrate is our number 5. Disintegrate, as we mentioned, it is just gonna destroys the body completely and requires a fantastic effect. 9th level spells and 25,000 gold to bring your body back. Holy crap. Finger of Death, it kills you, and if it does, you immediately come back as a zombie. Nobody wants that. Come on.
No, I know you and Doug were very much in the camp of Disintegrate. And I'm like, I don't know. I think Finger of Death is worth. Not only do you kill them, you bring them back as a zombie. Thematically to me, that seems way worse. But you guys were like, well, mechanically, it's so much harder to come back from a Disintegrate. There's not even a body. So whether you want to go lean into theme or mechanics, they're both pretty horrendous.
And from a visual perspective, if you see a caster, fire this beam of energy, whether it's that, green of Disintegrate or whether it's, that black of Finger of Death, both effects, as you watch this happen on the battlefield to one of your allies, to one of your friends, it's pretty horrific.
Yeah, that might be traumatic, yeah. So next up, Magic Jar.
All right, so why don't you get into what that one is?
All right, so Magic Jar is basically you can leave your body and you can inhabit a container. Not so bad, right? Well, then you can jump from that container into another person and forcing them into the container. You literally take over their body and become them. And, if when this spell ends that their spirit is too far away from the jar, they're just going to be destroyed. They're just going to be gone. And not only that, you've stolen their body. You are literally a body snatcher.
That is pretty horrific. And if you're a DM using this against your players, like you have put forth the possibility of destroying the character and their agency within the world. Now, it could be fun if a player is, considering leaving the game or wanting to change characters. This could be a cool egress for them, but to just be like, I'm going to put in this thing and hope that, the player survives.
And you can do horrible things to people via this, but you can destroy their reputation, frame them from crimes, because it will actually have been their body that did it. So I feel like there's a lot of ways that a bad guy or a villain could use this spell to really wreak havoc against your players or society as a whole.
Absolutely. So the next is going to be True Polymorph. Polymorph spells are pretty awesome, have a lot of uses, but True Polymorph, I can shapeshift, I can polymorph you into a thing, teleport, and as long as I concentrate for the next hour, it becomes permanent. I turn, your big bad evil guy turns, you into a squirrel, teleports away. All right, you're a squirrel for the rest of your life. Bye-bye.
This is a classic. This one comes up a lot as a trope where the villain is turning their victims into animals, snails, pigs, frogs. Usually it's something that is not only is it going to be weak, but is also kind of, I feel like, meant to kind of humiliate their opponent and their adversary as well. Just for the fact that it's such a classic, I felt like it had to be on the list.
Absolutely. So what do we got next?
Next is imprisonment. We mentioned it before. This one's harsh. Once you are imprisoned, it is super hard to escape. And not only that, there's different ways that you can actually imprison someone.
I looked at, I recently, had my final encounter against the big bad evil guy in my game. And I was looking at some of these spells, and imprisonment was one of those that I'm like, this is just too horrific to do to the players, because like from a player perspective, like it's like, all right, you're out of the combat. There's no way for you to affect what's going on.
You're out of the combat. You're out of the game.
But I mean, for this, it was a final encounter. But it's like, all right, you're out of it. It's like, okay, well, the battle might go on for another hour, and you're just gonna sit and twiddle your thumbs.
And again, this is a spell that takes like 8th, 9th level spell slot to break it. And it is, again, forever. And there's different things, like you entomb them in earth, you trap their soul in a gem, you bind them with chains for eternity. So a lot of this is another spell that I feel is very classic, and I feel like it just built off of a lot of different tropes and stories, mythologies and folklore that have been told, has been encompassed into this one horrific spell.
So, I mean, you can do a lot of fun things with it. It's great for effect if your big bad evil guy uses it on a beloved NPC, but to use it on a player, to me it just hurts as a GM. I feel that the RPG industry has kind of moved away from these kind of things, but I mean it's got to be included because it's such a classic.
Back in my AD&D days, I was playing a character that died and was reincarnated as an Ogre Magi, and my Ogre Magi began scrying on Darkhold, which apparently is a no-no in the Forgotten Realms, and they captured me, and they got me to agree to a spell, and I thought they were going to have me agree to like a geese, where I had to do something for them. At least that's what I was led to believe by my GM. But no, instead they just imprisoned me in the earth, and my character was essentially removed from the game.
Oh, that sucks. Well, you happen to mention our most evil spell, and or the number one spell on our list. And we've got a cool story that we've shared before on the channel. So the number one evil spell is what you just said, Geese.
Geese, yeah, it totally takes away the free will of the players. They have to perform specific tasks set upon by the spellcaster. It's a pretty evil spell.
Your agency as a player winds up being removed. You could wind up having to do something, as I mentioned earlier, with the dominate stuff that is against what your character would normally do. Oh, what if they geese you to kill a fellow player? What if they tell you, oh, abandon your oath or your god? Like, you could go in a lot of different directions with this, and it sucks from a player perspective and from an effect on the world perspective as well.
So these are our top 5. I think they're all pretty interchangeable. They're all pretty horrific, and they're going to screw over your players. Any bad guy worth his salt would be more than happy to use any of these spells on them. But the question is, folks, what is your favorite evil spell? What is the one your bad guys always have? Feel free to tell us about it. Hey, do you guys like these videos we do? Do you like the content we create? Well, we take content and create them from these videos and put it over on our Patreon every month. You're going to be able to get it over there. You're going to get it early. You're going to get it for less, because they eventually do end up on our store over at Nerdarchy. We also have other things like contests that we do for people that happen to be patrons. They automatically get entered. They don't have to go through the hassle of downloading a form and send it again like other people, as well as you get to play test our stuff with us as well. Interact with us on our Nerdarchy Patreon only Discord channel. So there's tons of benefits to becoming a patron. There's a link in the description. You should go check that out.
Head in the description and check out the link to D&D Beyond. You can help support the channel by supporting our sponsors.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.